Welcome back. This is Uix part 12. They're coming really fast now. I didn't think we'd get to part 12, but here we go. I want to talk about the AxisMultiViewportPanner. I've got that name slightly wrong. It'll be in the video description and the video title, but it's a useful way to slide between panels of Uix. I've created an example use case for it, but I don't actually recommend my example use case for what I would call a production or a release gadget. It's just something to illustrate how it works. You can see AxisMultiViewportPanner within the world browser. If you go to the world browser, in fact, I'll hop into private UI and I'll go ahead and go to the private UI. Here we are. If you go down to the bottom left-hand side, smooth POV as well. If you go down to the bottom left-hand side of the web browser here and you hit custom, did you see the animation where it scanned left and it pulled out this custom panel here? And I hit back and it scrolls back to the default filter lists. That is an AxisMultiViewportPanner. Let me turn off private UI and turn to the left here. This is what I've created doing it. So we've got a picture here and a button that says next on it. If I hit next, you'll see it scrolls across to my broken cow mug. If we hit next again, it scrolls across to me putting my face on hot plates, which is not a good idea. Do not do it. If I hit next again, you'll see it goes all the way back to the start again, and then I can just scroll through them again. So this is using a Uix button here. They have a button value shift and the AxisMultiViewportPanner at the top here with some Uix sprites. So it's a sort of combination of all those video parts. There are a lot of parts in the series, so I'll link the parts which are mandatory to watch before this, or if you know about the components that are being used, that's fine too. Just if you're not sure what's going on, check out the parts I link. I'll also link all the other parts below that, so I'll sort of put like sort of required learning and then an optional below that as well. Let's go ahead and get going. We're going to recreate this. This should illustrate how you can put together all these Uix components and end up with a cool functional UI that does something. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend this in a sort of production use case, and that's because to make a gadget, a gallery with this particular pattern, it's there's a lot of setup per image, and you'll also notice that when I cycle back round, it does that weird thing where it cycles all the way back to the cheetah's face. But it's a good example showing how it works. It's also good for sort of multi-part forms. So you've got like next page, previous page, and a form. So let's go ahead and create it. First thing you're going to need is that Uix template, which we use pretty much every video. So let's go ahead and drag that one out. So let me turn on private UI. It's inside public protocol prime, UI stuff, Uix templates, and it's this black rectangle here, canvas template. Let's go ahead, drop that in the world, turn off private UI, and get going. We will only need a developer tooltip for this. There is no logics involved here at all. And this is, again, one of the benefits of those common UI interactions and Uix itself, is you can just sort of jam out and create all sorts of stuff without logics. So let's go ahead and set up our UI. So I'm going to go ahead and hit secondary on this, and then hit open inspector. Underneath the canvas template here, I'm going to create two children. Which is a fast way to do it. I'm going to go ahead and create one of them, attach a component, Uix graphics image. That'll make a white square. I'm going to go ahead and set this square to be a dark green color, just like that button to the left of me over here. Do feel free again to use your own colors. I'm just using these ones because I know that they work and I can see them. And I'm going to go ahead and name this button. And then I'm going to go ahead and set its anchor min. Now I could use a layout here, but I did want to just do this fast, so I'm not using layouts. For the layout tutorial, again, it's in the video description, as are all the other parts. So I'm going to go ahead and set the anchor max of this rect transform here on the Y to 0.2, which will confine that button to the lower 20% of the Uix canvas. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that, and we're going to change this to Panner. This is where our AxisMultiViewportPanner, it's a long name, exists. I'm going to go ahead and delete the image from it because we won't need it on the panner here. And I'm going to go ahead and set its anchor min on the Y to be 0.2 and its anchor max to be 1. And what that's going to do is it'll take up the upper 80% of the page. Actually, if I add an image back in, Uix graphics image, you'll see that we've got, this is the panner up here, this is the button down here. So I'm going to remove that because I like the background for the images, and we'll go ahead and set up the button. So let's go ahead and click button. We'll hit star to make a new element, button child. We'll call this text. Sometimes I am recording code. Text. Attach component Uix graphics text. go ahead and just call this next. We want it to put it in the middle, and then we'll go ahead and we'll attach a button to it. So, oh no, actually we need to go up to the button. Always attach button to the button, not to the text, and that's because you get the hover colors for free. So I'm on the image, the green, dark green, attach component, Uix interaction button, and you'll get those colors for free. Now we'll go ahead and attach the common UI element, which is attach component common UI button interactions button value shift. Type in an integer here, so int. Add that. Now here in the delta, we want to put this as 1. We want to enable wraparound. We want to set the minimum to be 0 and the maximum to be 3. The maximum when you've got wraparound selected should always be 1 more than the maximum that you actually want, and that's because when it sees the maximum, it will go wraparound back around, especially with integers. That's all that we need to do right now. We will need to specify the target value, but we need to set up the panner first. Let's go ahead and do that. To do that much, you're going to go ahead and grab the panner here in the inspector, turn to the left a bit and hit trigger, which gives us another panel for it to look at. And here's where we're going to add that AxisMultiViewportPanner. So go to attach component, Uix, utility, AxisMultiViewportPanner. Like I said, it's a bit of a mouthful, but here we go. With this added, this is the thing that is just panning our viewports. It's really quite easy to set up once you get used to it. The first thing we're going to do is assign the viewport index. The viewport index is the index of the current viewport that exists. So if we go back to this example here, this is the 0th or first viewpoint. This is the first viewpoint, and then this is the second viewpoint, and it pans between them. So if we go back to the button, we can drag viewport index into the target value of the button value shift. And now when I push the button, you'll see viewport index goes to 0, 1, 2, and then background to 0. So 0, 1, 2, background to 0. So now all we need to do is set up those panels for it to pan through. If you add here 3 times, because we'll do 3 images, so add, 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 you'll see that it needs the anchor min, anchor max, and active of the panels that you want to pan through. Let's go ahead and set up some of those panels. So select panner, hit start to create a child, and we're going to call this I'll call this picture. Note that I'm not using image, which might be the obvious choice. That's just so I don't confuse it with the image Uix components. We'll call this picture. I'm going to go to attach component, Uix graphics image, which will add an image, and then attach component assets sprite provider. We'll need a sprite provider per panel because we're just doing images. And then I'm going to go ahead and spawn out those images that we're using. I'll be using the same, as I don't really have many publicly available images for my tutorials. Most of my images I've got sort of technical related or stuff for the Neos wiki or stuff for tutorials or private. So here's the mug. Here's that cheetah. And here's that hot plate. So let's set up the first one. We'll set up the first one as cheetah again. So we're going to go ahead and grab the cheetah, drop it into texture, grab sprite provider, drop it into the sprite, and now you see we've got the cheetah here. We'll now duplicate this twice. And right now we'll see that we've got 3 cheetahs, but we can just replace out the image here. So we'll replace the second one with the mug and the last one with the hot plate image. You'll see right now, and let's clean up just a little bit. You'll see right now that everything's kind of layered on top of each other. You'll see the cheetah's fluff is here, you've got the mug here, and then the hot plate here. And that's because we haven't added them to the AxisMultiViewportPanner. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to bring up the inspectors here side by side. It's a lot easier to do it this way. So for anchor min, it wants anchor min. So go ahead and grab anchor min, drop it in, anchor max, drop it in. For active, it wants the active of the slot. So up here, we need to grab active of the slot, drop it in, select the second one, and do it all over again. So anchor min, anchor max, and active. And then for the third one, just did active first because my cursor was there. Anchor min, anchor max. And we're done. We can close that inspector. I'll leave that one to the side so you can see it in progress. So right now we're on 0. If I hit next, you'll see we slide along to that mug, and you'll see it's now 1. So it's displaying this panel. And then we'll hit next again, and it's playing that one. So there you go. There is one more property on the AxisMultiViewportPanner, which which is the animation time. If you set that to a smaller amount of time, it'll slide faster. If you set it to a larger amount of time, it will slide slower. If we change the direction here, you'll see that we get some other stuff going on here. We can do all sorts of directions. Bottom to top will probably be better for this. Yep, there we go. Now the pictures go off the top. Or we can do right to left and they'll go backwards of the way that you saw them at the beginning of the video. So yeah, that is AxisMultiViewportPanner. Once again, I don't recommend this kind of sort of gallery setup here because for each picture that you add to your gallery, you'd have to add an element here and then link up its anchor min and anchor max, which would be a lot of sort of manual work just for a gallery. There's much better tools for a gallery, including one in the Polylogics folder called Storytime. But it's good to sort of show you how it works. I would recommend it for things like multi-page forms. The World Browser is a great example of that, where it's got that custom view that slides across. That's like an advanced form. Or if you've got a form where it's like, enter this details, hit next and slide across, or, a subsequent window that you might want stuff to appear in, AxisMultiViewportPanner is there for you. That's it. I will see you next time. Goodbye.